Hi, I'm sitting in my heating room, and what you can see behind me, if I move the right way, is an old desk that my family had when I was a little girl. And I actually sat at that desk and did my homework, okay? And I happen to know that that is over 100 years old. Now, that is behind me, and that reminds me to value and appreciate those things that came from the past in my family. And since I can trace my family back to 1066 on one side and earlier still on the other side, somewhere around 60 AD, they tell me, then we have to realize that there is a lot of programming in our DNA. Well, England's a small country. Kings and queens, lords and earls, they all got to put their names in Bibles and be recorded in histories and build castles and put their, big crest on the walls. And of course, my family did that. And so, Grandpa took me around and was saying, look here, this used to be our family castle, and look here, this was our family estate back in the 1500s, and look here, and so on and so. And I was highly impressed. Oh, look at all of this. I should be very, very proud of being British and very, very proud of my ancestors. And I thought, I want to honor them. I want to respect them. I want to follow in the line of these great ancestors. Now, I have to admit to you that there were some who were smugglers and naughty boys, doing the wrong thing. But at the same time, that seemed exciting to me that they were smuggling stuff over from France and, booze and stuff and whatever was not supposed to be brought into the country and doing this naughty stuff, in order to keep the gentry well up on what it was they needed, right? I went along with it all. I thought it was fascinating and so on. And I was a typical English woman who really was proud of her ancestry. But the bottom line was, I didn't like what I saw about England. When I was growing up, white people were together here, over here as it were, and the Indian people were here, and the black people were over here, and the Malaysians somewhere else, and so on, and we were all segregated. And when I told my parents, I don't like this. I've had dreams of mixing the realities of who we are together so that we integrate our species. My grandparents, particularly, were kind of shocked that I could even think that way because they'd lived in India with servants and so on. And my own parents were kind of open to my ideas, but telling me I can't trust them. Because I'm white, I could just as easily get my throat cut or something if I trusted the Indian people. If I went traveling around the world on my own, I'd probably end up murdered and so on. So by the time I was old enough to choose a career, I decided I wanted to be a nurse. And I decided that I wanted to nurse in a particular skill generally so that I could use that as a foundation stone to do the things that I wanted to do. Well, that wasn't all to happen completely. I did some of my nursing, but I got married instead. And I had four great boys and two marriages. And by the time I'd gotten through all of that, I'd begun to realize that my spiritual self had chosen my destiny before I ever entered this life. So there was never a question of not healing people. So although I was still, married and having children and so on, and not in nursing school, I was actually attending mental institutes, learning psychology and psychiatry and counseling, and also studying my Bible a little bit more. And so beginning to understand that all these things integrated with the physical body. Now, glancing back to when I was 7 after World War II finished, um, I was putting stones on my friends just for playing mums and dads and nurses and doctors, and I would sit back while they fell asleep and I would watch them getting better. In other words, their shock was leaving them because they were shocked. They were war torn. We had bombs dropping on us every night, poor things. So we were all skilled and, we were all nervous and afraid. And yet we all had skills about being able to survive noises and things like that by shutting them out. But when I was working on these kids, I could see that fear coming from them. It was oscillating like my hands are right now because I'm moving them. The camera can't keep up. And I would see this reflection of energy like this coming off people's auras. And so I went to my mom and I said, Mom, I can see all these rainbowy colors coming off my friends. And what do you think? And she just said, Oh, it's probably the sun's rays. Your mind is just reflecting. It's been a bit moist in the atmosphere. So, it's just raindrops. And that's why it's not raining. There's nothing going on out there. It's a nice sunny day. Well, yes, it's the sun. The sun's doing it. Well, that didn't satisfy me. So, of course, I went to my spirit guides and I said, What is it? And they said, You're using clairvoyance. Oh, I didn't know what clairvoyance was. I hadn't even learned to speak French yet. So, what is it? So they explained to me it was a psychic sense of seeing. So, what was psychic? I didn't know what was psychic. I'd never heard the word psychic. So I went running into my mom and I said, Mom, what's psychic? And my dad was in the room and he said, Why don't you look it up in the dictionary? So I did. And I found that it had to do with the brain in those days. It had to do with the psyche, which was the ability of the brain to process things consciously, subconsciously, and deep subconsciously. So I thought, okay, it's my brain working. But later I learned that my brain had an ability to not only dig and delve into all my memories, but show me pictures. So right now, as you're watching me, for example, I'd like you to think of a tree. And I guarantee you'll see an image of a tree. Now, whether you see an elm tree or an oak tree or a fir tree or whatever is all relative to where you live and what you've seen. See, if I think of an oak tree, I think of one of these great big enormous oak trees that we find in England. Amazing. They're 500 and 600 years old. Whereas if I think about the oak trees in California, they're skinny and scrawny because they don't get much water and they're a different brand of oak tree. Yeah, brand. I guess that's a good word to say because all over the world there are different people with different branding. And what I mean by that is different ideas, different coding, different personalities. And we all act differently. We're all unique. So when I was going back to my 7-year-old little girl, I said to my spirit guides, how come I can hear you and no one else can? I tried it on my aunties, I said, my guide's talking to me, can you hear? And they look at me like I'm a bit insane and say, well, yes, dear, you're playing your favourite game, mummies and daddies, so yes, enjoy your little chat with your guide. And I realized that I had no idea, they were just humouring me. And I felt locked out. I felt separated. I felt like, hey, I didn't really belong with these people. They were different from me. But okay, so I could see energy, I could see spirits, I could hear them. Okay, what else could I do? Well, amazing things used to happen. I used to get these tremendously gorgeous smells of flowers right in the middle of winter when there weren't any flowers around. And one particular one that used to smell a lot was lotus, and the other was hyacinth. And I loved the hyacinths when they were in bloom. In fact, I kept some bulbs and tried to make them grow in the winter. Not very successfully, I might add. And I started to realize that some of my spirit guides would give me the smells of flowers or sometimes trees like fir trees. They smell really nice. And I would start to realize it was a smell associated with one of my spirit guides and the environment that they had lived in their last life. So by smell, I knew who was with me. And then they give me images. Now, one of the guides I had back in those days was Little Fern. She was always coming around. Apparently, we lived in a past life together. So I really felt endeared to her. I liked her a lot. And I had never ever seen a, a corn on the cob. That's the right way. Get it the right way around. I'd never seen one, let alone eaten one and smelled one. And whenever she'd come around, she would give me this smell of corn on the cob cooked with butter on it. It wasn't until I was in my mid-20s that I actually worked on a farm and picked the corn and took it home and cooked it, by the way, and smothered it with butter, that I was smelling it and went, oh my goodness, that's what she was showing me all those years ago. So sometimes we have to wait a long time till we find out what we're actually smelling or tasting. And of course, the smell and taste in the psychic sense is called clairsentience. Smell and taste, clairsentience. You'll find some people can mix up the different modalities of calling different parts of the psychic ability different words, but over the years with my training with spirit in my head my whole life, I've listened to them and I've used the words that they have chosen. So clairsentience is smell and taste. But what about my feeling? Sometimes I would be sitting still and suddenly I'd feel like someone's gone like this down my hair. And yet there was no one there. And I'd look around and who touched me? And then there were times when I would touch myself and I would feel as though there was a bigger hand and something else holding me. Yes, it was a sense of touch that is included in the psyche as a sense of psychometry, of feeling energy. So let's have you try something for a minute. Hold your hands up. Now, rub one hand, doesn't matter which, and ask yourself, which is the most common thing you're aware of? Is it the touching of your hand with the hand you're rubbing? Or is it the hand that's being touched? I know because I'm a healer that I have defined much more my sense of touching others. So when I touch myself, I have to consciously remind myself to feel with the other hand that I'm being touched by myself. Now, that is a very important thing to know because if you're going to be a trance medium or you're going to channel spirit guides, you've got to know how it feels when they touch you with your own body. And more importantly, when you're channeling and being a trance medium, you've got to know how spirit guides can embrace and hold others with their energy. Have you ever sat under a tree with your back to it and just thought, this is the most relaxing moment I've ever had? Well, when you lean your back against a tree, you're letting yourself receive healing energy from the tree that is coming through the back of your major chakras. And when that happens, the front part of your chakras starts to be calmer. Yes, the front side is your lower self, and your back side is your higher self. So when you get your chakras healed, you're going to find yourself happier. You're going to be more at peace. So why am I talking to you about psychometry, clairvoyance, clairaudience, and clairsentience? Because you have that natural ability inside you. You've had it since you're in the womb. And when you came through the birth canal, or when you were yanked out of the womb with cesarean, you were made to feel, touch, hear, and see. Your brain kicked in. And you've been using it your whole life. The problem is, You haven't had training to develop it. So imagine that I put you in front of a piano and I said, play. Well, as a child, you'll ding dong around on the piano and you'll like it. But after a while, you'll say, I want to learn to play a tune. And once you've learned to play one tune, I remember I was singing da 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 da, something like that. I thought it was great. So I said to my mum, I want to have piano lessons, and I had piano lessons, and I learned enough to accompany myself to sing. So when my children were in bed, I would get the piano and me, my music, and sing away for a couple of hours to please me. And of course, my kids fell asleep, so I had some peace. You need to sing. Sing in the shower. You need to let yourself have a hobby. Whatever it is, music's wonderful. Dance is another. Art is another. Painting, drawing, molding, weaving. We could go on forever. But you must have a hobby. Because the hobby is what brings out the creative you. And the creative you is stimulated by your psychic senses of clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience, and psychometry. So for you especially, I have already put up on Samari's Education Center the first level course. And I've made it so cheap for you. Yes, I have. You know, people would charge you $2,000 and $3,000 to learn the things that I'm going to teach you. And it is nowhere near that price. So why don't you take a look and see what my special offer is? Now, once you've done level 1, then we get a little bit more serious and we start doing level 2. And by the time you've got to level 5 with me, I will want you to come to Las Vegas or some other big town. We don't know where yet, but when we have enough students who are doing this, we will have practical tests, examinations. I'll work with you on a one-on-one to bring you up to standard if you're failing, but I don't think you will. And the amazing thing is, through Samari's Education Center, you can work with me online. I can chat with you, I can Skype with you, I can help you do anything you want to do. So this is important for you because it's going to help you be you. It's going to help you to choose to do the right things in your life. I can honestly say that even when things have gone wrong in my life, I have a big part of me that steps back and says, that was a real lesson. Now, what did I really, really learn? And of course, when I decide what I really learned, I integrate that into my future. After all, I don't want to make more mistakes. I want things to stay the same. No, I don't. Not really. I want things to change. Because things changing make me grow. When I say I want things to stay the same, I mean I want to keep on healing and helping people. I want to help you. But no, I don't want to just work with the same information over and over again. I want to share with you what more I learn. So the more you take your time out with me and the more you study with me, the more you'll learn. I have got a lot to teach you. So on this little happy note, I'm going to say to you, go take a look at the first course we have up, which is Psychic Development Level 1. There are 10 modules. Yes, there's some homework to do and practice to do. And yes, you can write to me about anything that you need to talk to me about. So don't forget, have a look, won't you?